In the history of biogeography, we will be talking about an Italian scientist and his ideas, the Leon Croizat. The Leon Croizat amassed a vast array of distributional data representing each biogeographical pattern as a line or track connecting its known areas of distribution. So, what he did, he was discussing about the distributional data of different organisms, and those different organisms were distributed along some lines or tracked, and he gave them the name of lines or tract, and he connected all the areas of distribution. So here you can see the Croizet study the distribution patterns of many unrelated taxa, and for each he draw lines or track on the map linking the areas in which they are found. In many cases, these lines were similar enough in position to be combined as generalized track shown here. So different taxa were having a generalized track because a lot of different form of organisms were passing through those tracks. So that means in past, later the explanations will come for his tract, that in the past these tracks were physically and geographically connected. The Leon Croizet found that the tracks of many taxa belonging to a wide variety of organisms could be combined to form a generalized track that connected different regions of the world. So different taxa, but still they are found in the same track. That means these tracks are actually the connections between in the past maybe, but it is yet to be confirmed. So there will be an explanation in terms of geology as well. So he gave the idea of pan biogeography. He argued that all of these areas connected by one of these tracks had originally formed a single continuous area that was inhabited by the group concerned. So he was in turn giving a biological information, and he had the data behind it to accept the explanation of Wagner about the Pangea or the common geographical connection of these taxa. So this was something that was very, very revolutionary, because earlier scientists, they were in the completely different group. A lot of scientists will be convinced by the idea or ideas of Leon, and as we see here, the there was the idea of dispersalism, and now the Croizet gave the idea of vicariance. He believed that any barrier that exists today within the pattern of distribution of taxa had appeared after the pattern had come into existence. So he said that taxa have developed first. The barrier came after that. Right? For example, if this is the single land mass, what will happen that if there is some organism that is being living here, that is residing here, if these areas are separated, there are the population which will be present on both the parts of that area. The barrier does not affect the presence of population on any of that areas. The evolutionary record will be present in that areas as well. So that these taxa had never needed to cross them. So there is no need to cross the barrier, one area to another area. That is not productive because the organisms are still living there. And this idea was called vicariance. So Croizet published his ideas in 1950s and 60s, his major presentation being in his 1958 book, The Pan Biogeography. Croizet was correct and ahead of time. Dispersal explain everything. That was the earlier scientists. They were explaining everything about dispersal, but there were some scientists who were now explaining everything according to vicariance as well. So vicarious explain everything. So these were the two group of scientists that were formed at that time. And then there are some Croizet supporters. The biogeographer, most of whom work in New Zealand, because New Zealand was in that area where the origins of organism that was much more actively debated, because it is in that area which has such a population which is related to the different areas of the world. So these pan biographers accepted his generalized track running across the ocean basin, referring to them as ocean baselines. And here you can see the cross pen biographical method, cross biographical method. The tracks link area where the related taxa are found. The track 1 or 2 are example of the Indian Ocean baseline, and track 3 and 4 similarly are example of the Pacific Ocean baseline. So you can see that these are the tracks which were present, and these will be, giving rise to a theory that in the past these area of the world were geographically one, right? So they were very much attached with each other in the past, and this was the one of the scientists who was convinced by uh, the earlier works, and he's the cross pan biographical method explained that how our different organism can found in different geographical regions. One of the scientists who was convinced by the Croiset's ideas, he draw a pan biographical map, right? So the Croix here, through the pan biographical method, draw a map in which he united all those areas which were having the uh, biogeographical link. Here you can see the four of such tracks. For example, in the track 1, you can see, which is going through the Indian Ocean baseline, you can see the track 1 is connecting the India with Africa, as well as you can see the track 2, which is again going through the Indian Ocean, and it is connecting the Oceania, the Indonesia, Malaysia with the Africa as well. And then you can see the South America is connected with the Australia, and the North America is somehow connected with the uh, northern part of the Asia through the 4 and 3 Pacific Ocean baseline, which are the 4 and 3 tracks respectively here. And this is ideas which were originally the thinking of Croiset and later were adopted by the Cross, who developed this very comprehensive map of the tracks.